Welcome back to another episode of ROC Boys Football. It is Mock Draft Monday. We haven't talked NFL draft stuff in a long time. We've been watching a lot of prospects. The fellas are slowly building out our draft notebook. But we're taking a look at a 2023 NFL mock from Mike Renner of PFF. Really just talking prospects, a little bit of position need, but again, it is so early on in the process. Players are going to be on different teams. Teams are going to be choosing in different spots. We're mostly just kind of getting a feel, and I'm giving you guys my takes on some of these prospects that are showing up in the first round. Before we get into it, though, again, I just want to say thank you guys for all the support, whether you're a college football fan, whether you're an NFL draft fan. I love talking ball with you guys in the comment section, and the support you guys have shown has been absolutely awesome. We really do appreciate it. Part of the beauty of the NFL draft process is people see players in all different ways, and I love talking about players in the comment section. So if you guys do have a player to watch, drop it in the comments. I will take a look for sure. Let's get into the mock here. First round, I believe the Texans have the first pick in this draft, and they're going to go with C.J. Stroud from Ohio State. I'm starting to get on board about it. About 5 months ago, when the 2023 draft was kind of kicking off, Bryce Young was my quarterback one, but what C.J. Stroud has done, and it's a coin flip, to be honest. I mean, what kind of quarterback you want. Bryce Young, obviously a smaller guy, but a very good athlete when it comes to breaking the pocket, extending plays. Bryce Young's pocket presence is next level. I mean, nothing really seems to rattle this guy, and he hasn't really been behind the best of offensive lines the last couple of years, and he's still really getting it done. CJ Stroud, though, has been extremely impressive, and every trait that you want in a franchise quarterback, CJ Stroud has. His pocket presence is getting a lot better. His accuracy has gotten a lot better. He's putting balls right where they need to be. I mean, yes, he's working with very good wide receivers, but he's also doing a fair share of making these guys look good. One thing that I really like when I've been watching some Ohio State games is he hits his players in stride. I mean, the ball is right on their chest, allowing some of these elite athletes to get yards after the catch, and that's something that's an emphasis at the next level. You have to put right on players so they can kind of catch and run, and that's kind of those hidden yards. It's not all about the air yards. It's about the yards after the catch, and C.J. Stroud does a very good job setting his players up to be successful after the catch. Number 2, Will Anderson for the Seahawks. This is just the best player available. The best non-quarterback in this class is Will Anderson. Now, I'm probably going Bryce Young here if I'm the Seahawks. Geno Smith is kind of a bridge quarterback. He's been playing well for the Seahawks, but when you have a chance to get a guy like Bryce Young, a generational type quarterback, I feel like you have to pull the trigger on that. And say you don't want to. Like, you can trade out of this pick. The first 2 picks in this draft, in my opinion, will have a ton of value due to the fact that there are elite quarterbacks available. Last year, the Jags probably would have traded out of that pick if there had been a C.J. Stroud or Bryce Young and a team willing to give up multiple first-round picks to go up and get those guys. There wasn't, and so they stuck there and took Trayvon Walker, which isn't looking too bad, but I'm sure if you asked them, they would probably we'll take 3 first-round picks and future picks to give up that spot. Number 3, Jalen Carter, the Jets. He's probably the second best non-quarterback in this class in terms of having that pass rush on the interior, which is increasingly a very important aspect of a defense. I mean, edge rusher is still very important, but if you can have a guy who can play kind of that 3 tech and get after the quarterback at a high level, that's really important. I mean, this guy is a pocket destroyer. He gets off the ball extremely well. He uses his hands extremely well, and he's very good in the run game too. But again, you're getting a guy from the inside who is a game wrecker from a pass rush standpoint, and that's really how you win at the next level. Number 4, the Chicago Bears. I think this is really interesting because new GM, new coach, neither of those guys picked Justin Fields. That's not their guy, and I could certainly – they're obviously not putting a lot of trust in Justin Fields. They're not throwing the ball at all. If Bryce Young is there at pick 4 for the Bears honestly might be picking a little higher. I do not see them winning too many more games. I think they'll go quarterback. And Bryce Young, if he's there at 4, that's truly a no-brainer. I think he's a top 2 player in the draft. He's dealing with not a very good offensive line, which C.J. Stroud has a solid offensive line this year, and in throwing to some of the best wide receivers in the country. Bryce Young doesn't really have a wide receiver that he can just kind of go to and have him make a play for them. I mean, you're seeing some of the plays that Marvin Harrison, Emeka Egbuka, Julian Fleming are making for C.J. Stroud. Yes, C.J. Stroud is really good, but they're also making him look really good. Bryce Young doesn't have that talent this year that we were used to seeing, and I think that's why you're seeing him struggle a little bit. The offensive line is still trying to figure it out. You look at what Bryce Young did last year with some of those wide receivers, it was a different story. Number 5, the Washington Commanders go and get Will Levis. This guy is I'm conflicted on Will Levis. I'm going to need to get into his tape a little bit more because coming into the year, he wasn't even in my top 5 quarterbacks. I thought Kentucky didn't ask him to do very much. A lot of play action. Yes, he has all those traits. He's a big guy. He's an athletic guy. He's a rocket arm. Accuracy was a struggle at points. And then you didn't really see him drop back and go through progressions. It was a lot of bootlegs. There was a lot of play action after the run game. And Kentucky does not have a very good run game this year. And Will Levis is being asked to do a little bit more. And he's been impressive. Will Levis is definitely raising his stock. But in terms of a top 5 quarterback, I don't know if I'm sold on it yet. Number 6, the Steelers go get Bryan Bresee. See, I'm more of a Myles Murhphy guy if you're looking for kind of an elite guy on the defensive line. But Bryan Bresee coming in, he's a number 1 overall high school recruit. He can really do it all. I mean, he can play like that 0 over a center and hold his own. He's a 6'5", 300-pound, and Mike Renner calls him a physical freak. And that's about what he is. Something that really stands out for Bryan Bresee is the athleticism he has, the footwork he has for 6'5", 300 pounds. I mean, he's explosive and he's super, super strong. But the ability to get lateral and kind of work against those zone run block schemes is really impressive. He's a very, very well-rounded prospect. One thing to monitor, ACL last year, hasn't played that much this year. He had liver disease. But when he's on the field, he's the best player on the field in a lot of ways. And I'm okay taking him at 6. 7, the Panthers go get Myles Murhphy. I said I hesitated, and I purposely hesitated when I said Bryan Bresee is the best player on the field because the guy that's lining up right next to him, Myles Murhphy, might be better. Myles Murhphy, 275 pounds. His get-off from the line of scrimmage is next level for a guy that big. He is as well-rounded of a prospect as you can come. And, again, Clemson has turned out a lot of good defensive linemen. Myles Murhphy might be one of the best ones we've seen in a while. Very good in the run game. I mean, setting the edge, working through blocks, taking on double teams. He checks all those boxes, but his get-off is phenomenal in the pass rush. He's strong enough to go right through tackles, and he's strong enough to beat them with speed in that get-off. Myles Murhphy probably will finish as a top 5 prospect in this class for me. Peter Skoronski, 8 to the Atlanta Falcons. The Falcons need a lot of help. I really like Peter Skoronski. I'm worried that the NFL won't. He's a little short for a tackle. I don't know if he'll have 33-inch arms. I could see him kicking in the guard at the next level. That being said, the film that Peter Skoronski's put out the last couple of years has been one of the best you've seen in the class. He doesn't give up any pressures. He doesn't give up any sacks. And it's so funny to watch Northwestern because that team stinks, but Peter Skoronski at left tackle just holds his own. Whatever they're asking him to do, he does it well, and then the 4 other linemen just don't really do it well. He's thriving in a system that's obviously not great, but he is such a solid tackle. I'm interested to monitor this tackle class. I don't think it's as good as we've seen in years past, and Peter Skoronski is one of those guys that is probably the most NFL-ready guy, probably the best tackle in the class, but in terms of having a high ceiling, having that all-pro ceiling, I think there's some other tackles in this class that might have a little higher of a ceiling. Tanner McKee, number 9. I've listened to Mike Renner. I like listening to him a lot. He loves Tanner McKee, and there's a lot to like about him. He's 6'6", 230 pounds. He has a good arm. He's very accurate with the football. You'd like to see a little bit more college football success before taking a guy in the top 10. I mean, he's been pretty pedestrian. That Stanford offense isn't really designed to put up a lot of points. Not taking Tanner McKee in the top 10. I probably don't even have a first-round grade on him. I need to get in and watch a little bit more. I haven't watched a ton of Stanford football this year. I watched him against USC. He actually looked really good. I'm not sold on Tanner McKee yet, but he is a guy that if you're looking for an NFL quarterback, 6'6", 230, very, very good arm, I can see it. Christian Gonzalez from Oregon. I would not be touching an Oregon secondary. This is way too high for him. I've actually seen a little bit of Christian Gonzalez. He's a transfer from Colorado. That Oregon secondary hasn't been great. I'm not banging the table. I think there's a lot of different cornerbacks that I take. Kelee Ringo jumping out, Antonio Johnson from Texas A&M. This seems a little high for Christian Gonzalez. The New York Giants take Nolan Smith. This is a guy that could have gone out last year, probably would have been a day 2 pick. decides to come back to Georgia. He's obviously another one of those very, very good athletes. He was a former number one high school recruit in his class, was actually with Kayvon Thibodeau. I believe he edged him out. Him and Kayvon Thibodeau were like fighting for that number one spot in the high school recruiting ranks. My worry for Nolan Smith is I don't know I don't know where he really plays. I think he's a little bit more scheme specific. You don't see him put his hand in the dirt that much. He's a little bit undersized for kind of being a true 4-3 defensive end. Definitely more of an outside linebacker, but then I worry about the athleticism and space. I like Nolan Smith a lot. I would have more of kind of an end of day one, early day two grade on him. Isaiah Foskey of Notre Dame, I've heard a lot of good things. I've been impressed. He's a guy that you would really like to trade. 6'5", 265 pounds. He's a very, very good athlete. Creates pressure on the quarterback. He's good in the run game. This edge class, I think, is gettable. After Myles Murhphy, who's kind of my easy edge one, I think it's a little bit wide open. I think this class is a little bit more stronger on the inside of that defensive line. So guys like Nolan Smith, I actually want to kind of pull up my ranks real quick, just because there are some other guys that I kind of like in this edge group that I think are worth kind of talking about. So Will Anderson and Myles Murhphy, kind of that elite edge class. And then you have a guy like Bijan Ojulari, who I'm a massive fan of. I'm a massive fan of Derek Hall, and I'm a massive fan of Will McDonald. And so they're outside of the top two guys, kind of like the quarterback spots, where you have Bryce Young and CJ Stroud. You have Myles Murhphy, Will Anderson. And then I think it's wide open for that edge three, whether it's Isaiah Foskey, whether it's Nolan Smith. I'm not a huge fan of Andre Carter yet, but I need to watch a little bit more film on him. That kid from Kansas State I really like a lot. And Will McDonald's a guy that's not getting talked about enough. He's not as good in the run game, but in terms of pass rusher, he is one of the best in the class. This edge class, I think, will come down to a lot of testing. And that's one of the more, when you look at positions that they care about testing, that edge class they care a lot about it. They care about that raw athleticism. So I think this will kind of figure itself out as pro days and NFL Combine come around. Wide receivers. First one off the board, Jordan Addison. Jordan Addison's looked great at USC. He's about as well-rounded as you can get as a wide receiver. He doesn't have anything that is extremely special. Like, he's a very good route runner. He's got some really good speed. I'm going with Quentin Johnston as my wide receiver one. He's at Jacksonville at number 15. I love that pick. Quentin Johnston has been extremely impressive to me. But again, there's a lot of good wide receivers. Jaxon Smith-Njigba you could throw in there. He's kind of got him clumped up here at 13, 15, and 16. This will kind of weed its way out. I want to talk a little bit about all these guys, though. Quentin Johnston, my wide receiver one, 6'4", 215 pounds, about as good as anybody in this class going up and getting the football vertically down the field. A.T. Perry's another guy you could throw in there. But what separates Quentin Johnston is the long speed is absolutely insane. I kind of comp him to Drake London. They like a lot of taller, bigger wide receivers with kind of slender frames. Drake London was really good after the catch. Quentin Johnston might be better. In terms of being able to run away from DBs, he can do that. But he is just a mauler. He's very hard to tackle. And his ability to create separation in the route tree is something that I wasn't sold on with Drake London. Quentin Johnston can do that. I mean, press the guy vertically and then come back to the football, creating separation and then working after the catch. Quentin Johnston, I think, can be an all-pro, Pro Bowl, Hall of Fame kind of wide receiver. I think he's that special. I'm very, very high on him. The Arizona Cardinals go get Bijan Robinson at 14. Bijan Robinson a decade ago probably would have been a top 10 pick. I think he's a top 10 prospect in the class. It's just with the lack of value that teams are putting on the running back spot, he might fall a little bit. Now, Bijan Robinson isn't just a running back. He's extremely good out of the backfield. And when you're looking at taking a running back inside the top 15, inside the top 20, you have to kind of check all the boxes. Teams, if they want a good pure ball carry, they'll go get Sean Tucker in the second or third round. If they want a really good guy out of the backfield, they'll go get Jahmyr Gibbs. Bijan Robinson is a guy that you can leave on the field for all three downs, and he can really get it done. And that's what's going to separate you and kind of put you in a first-round spot as a running back. If you want kind of a part of a committee running back like some of the names that I mentioned, you can wait till day 2, maybe even early day 3. But if you want a guy who can do it all and can kind of be an offensive weapon, I think Bijan Robinson is kind of the guy there. At 16, Jaxon Smith-Njigba. I talked about Quentin Johnston's ability to separate and get open. Jaxon Smith-Njigba is probably the best route runner, probably the best separator in the class. I mean, if you want a quarterback-friendly wide receiver, it's Jaxon Smith-Njigba. He seems like he's always open in this Ohio State offense. He's pretty good after the catch. I think that's what's dropping him. In terms of statistics, in terms of being the best wide receiver in the country, he's probably the best wide receiver in the country. That being said, there's not a ton of like that high-end stuff that you see with a guy like Quentin Johnston that would maybe have me as getting him as a top 10 pick. I actually really like him at 16. I'm not as high. I shouldn't say I'm not high on him. I'm just not like, I don't think he's a top 5 prospect. I don't even think he's a top 10 prospect. I think he's much more in the middle of the first round. I kind of like where he is right here. The Raiders go get Paris Johnson Jr. This is a guy that he's kind of slowly putting it together. I watched him a bunch last year, kind of doing some prep. I haven't seen a ton of Ohio State games just because a lot of the games haven't been competitive. He's a guy that came out as a top 10 high school prospect in the country. He has all those tools. He's very big. He's a very good athlete. He can be a franchise left tackle. He just showed kind of some vulnerabilities in his pass protection last year. Aiden Hutchinson gave it to him a little bit in that game last year. I need to go back and make sure he's putting it together. I have seen a little. He does look much better. Paris Johnson's a guy that you probably will see in the top 20 if he continues his good year. Kelee Ringo, this is my cornerback one. I mean, low 4.3 speed, 6'2", 210 pounds. That's all I feel like I need to say about this kid. And he was going up against some elite wide receivers last year as a second-year kid, and he's really good. He's a little handsy at times, but, I mean, in terms of 6'2", 210 pounds, that fast, being able to run. That was one of the questions he had with him outside Sauce Gardner, is that straight line speed. Can he keep up with some of the fastest wide receivers in the NFL? And then he goes out and runs like a 4.35, I think, 40 at the combine. Kind of check that box. Kelee Ringo, you don't have questions about that. I really like Kelee Ringo's game. I think he's a top 15 prospect. He's my cornerback one in the class early. Jared Verse, this is about where we talked about edge guys that could kind of emerge as edge number 3. Jared Verse might be that guy. Coming from Albany, I mean, he was a wide receiver tight end in high school, very under-recruited. COVID happens. He gains a ton of weight. Now he's just sitting at 6'4", 250 pounds. His get-off is next level, but his power through tackles is also next level. I watched him hampered. I mean, you saw what he did against LSU when he was healthy. He's a game wrecker. I mean, he's dealing with an injury right now, comes in kind of sparingly against Wake Forest and was just absolutely giving it to the Wake Forest tackles. This guy could certainly be edge 3. Again, you want to see a full year. They have a bye after this week, kind of get him healthy and finish the year strong. He's got all the traits. What he's done is really, really impressive, going from a small FCS school to being an impact game-breaking player at the Power 5 ACC level is extremely impressive. I think people thought there'd be a year of development. No, he's there. He's that dude already. I've seen a lot of, Olu Fashanu from Penn State. I've seen a lot of hype. I have not watched much of him. He wasn't really even on my radar. They play Michigan this week. Michigan has probably the best pass rush, barring Ohio State in the Big Ten. This is going to be an extremely big game for him to show that he can get it done against NFL-level talent. I will circle back to this prospect after they play Michigan because I've heard a lot of good things. I just don't know enough about him yet. Andre Carter, the Seahawks. I'm not sold on him yet. I think people are kind of getting caught up on, he ran up the sacks last year. He's 6'7", 260 pounds. He has that highest pass rushing grade in the country. I just think he is I have trouble seeing where he plays at the next level. You haven't really seen greatness in the run game. He kind of has trouble lowering those pads and kind of taking on blocks because he's 6'7", and it's just doesn't have great leverage. Need to watch a little bit more of him. I know a lot of people like him as a top 10 prospect. I am not there, not even close to being there. I think he's more of a day 2 guy for me. But again, there's a lot of time left for Andre Carter to kind of improve his stock. I haven't seen a ton of him yet. Like I did a little prep on him going into the season. It comes down to he looks great. Where are you going to put him at the NFL? You have to be able to have a spot where he's going to succeed at the next level. I'm not kind of sold on that. The Bengals go get Michael Mayer. Joe Burrow loves his tight ends. Hayden Hurst has been doing a decent job. Michael Mayer is kind of a guy that I'm not saying he's Kyle Pitts, but he's a kind of a game-changing tight end, which is rare. You look around the tight end class, like Travis Kelce, Kyle Pitts, Probably throwing Mark Andrews. I'm definitely forgetting one. Maybe Darren Waller, George Kittle. Like, I think Michael Mayer can be in that class. I think that's how good he is. And when you look at that Notre Dame offense, as bad as it's been, it's pretty much if we're throwing the ball, we're throwing it to Michael Mayer. And he's making it happen. And he's a very good run blocker, too. And you see how he moves. Like, people call him Baby Gronk, and it's not a total joke. Like, he's kind of that guy. The Miami Dolphins go get Trent Simpson. He's my linebacker one. When you look at he's a top 20 prospect for me. I think he could go higher than this. And you talk about what you want in an NFL linebacker. Trent Simpson has it all. I mean, he's a phenomenal athlete. He's 6'3". He's long. He can cover guys. He can blitz off the edge. He can blitz through the A-gap. He's very good. You need guys who can play in space. This isn't a NFL league where the game is played between the tackles anymore. Gone are those days with the heavy-hitting linebackers. You need linebackers who can carry tight ends up the seam. You need linebackers who can go tackle running backs in the flat, who can cover and man coverage running backs. Trent Simpson can do all of that. He is truly kind of a freak. Isaiah Simmons from Clemson a couple of years ago, I think Trent Simpson is kind of a better Isaiah Simmons in terms of, like, he can play linebacker. He's strong and physical enough to do that. I'm a massive fan of Trent Simpson. Tyree Wilson from Texas Tech. This guy is a traits guy. He's 6'6", 275 pounds. I think he's very explosive off the line of scrimmage. He notches a lot of pressures. He's kind of a game wrecker. Seems a little high for me, personally. I think there's some other edge guys. You look at guys like Derek Hall. You look at guys like Bijan Robinson. You look at guys like ZTF, Will McDonald. I'd probably have those guys higher than Tyree Wilson. But Tyree Wilson is a traits guy, and that position is a traits position. You want to get guys who, okay, he's a freak. If we can teach him how to rush the passer a little bit better, teach him a little technique, he's going to be really good. The Ravens go get Antonio Johnson. That would be very fun to see Kyle Hamilton and Antonio Johnson in the same defense. 6'3", 200-pound, very good short area quickness. He's extremely physical in the run game. The knock on him, and the reason why he's my quarterback too, actually, but the reason why you might see him fall is because maybe people think he's a safety, kind of a box safety like Derwin James-ish. He doesn't really play a lot of like the outside cornerback, where you see the cornerbacks getting drafted in the top 20 do, but he's just so good. He can blitz. He can get tackles for a loss. I mean, there's so much he can do. And even if he does play safety at the next level, he's a kind of safety that really changes the game for your defense because you can do so much for him. I think he's really good in the nickel. And so you walk him into the box and kind of let him be in cover. Like, Jamal Adams is really good at like a really good box safety, but can't really cover that well. Antonio Johnson, I think, can play a very similar role, but be elite in coverage. And I'm a massive fan of Antonio Johnson. I would be surprised if he falls to 25. Siaki Ika from Baylor to the Lions. The Lions are continuing to just hammer the trenches. This would make a lot of sense. He's like a little kind of Walmart version of Jordan Davis. He's got like 6'4", 350. He's a mammoth. And he's a fire hydrant. And he does not get moved off the line of scrimmage. He takes on double teams extremely well. In terms of being a great in the run game, he is that guy. But he also can rush the passer a little bit. I just don't know if he has like that upside that Jordan Davis does. The testing that Jordan Davis had at the combine and what GMs were looking at him like, okay, we haven't seen him rush the passer that well at Georgia, primarily because he doesn't really play a lot on third downs. But we can teach him to do that. Siaki Ika probably doesn't have that athletic upside, but he's a pretty damn good athlete for his size, and he's what you want him to do, kind of be a first and second down, running down kind of guy who can give you some value in the pass rush. He's going to be able to do that at the next level. I could see him at the end of day one. I really do like Siaki Ika. Tyreek Stevenson from Miami, no, sir. Don't like him that much. I think he gives up a decent amount. I've watched a lot of ACC Miami football, and I'm just there's not a guy that I'm really taking from Miami. I don't think there's a single guy that you really feel great about. Joey Porter Jr. I like a lot more. Cam Smith I like a lot more. Clark Phillips I like a lot more. I've seen a decent amount of Tyreek Stevenson. I don't think he's that great. I'm definitely not taking him with the 27th pick. The Green Bay Packers go get Josh Downs. That is what, wide receiver 4 off the board. Keyshawn Butte obviously falling a significant amount. Josh Downs is definitely more of that slot guy. He's, I think, taken over 80% of his snaps from the slot. He's very good at what he does. He's very good in the open field. He forces missed tackles, and he gets open. He's very solid, small though, 5'10", 175 pounds. the Green Bay Packers want a guy in the slot. Say they feel really good about Christian Watson and Romeo Doubs on the outside, and they want to get a guy that they took Amari Rodgers a couple years ago to do that role. Hasn't really found the field much. Kind of a Randall Cobb-esque kind of guy. I think Josh Downs can do that. That being said, I don't know if I'm using a first-round pick on a slot wide receiver when you can get guys like Tank Dell maybe in day 2. They're very similar players. I think I want a little bit more of a game breaker if I'm using my first-round pick at that pick number 28. The Chiefs go get, I always mess up this guy's name, Adetomiwa Adebawore. I watched him against Nebraska. He is very, very good. Kind of he's not that long. 6'2", 280 pounds. He's extremely strong. He kind of goes right through tackles. I wouldn't say he is a freak athlete off the ball, but he's extremely strong. George Karlaftis-ish. My problem is I think him and George Karlaftis have very similar games where they're not really kind of the speed rush. They're kind of, we're going to go right through tackles. But George Karlaftis was a lot better at what he does than this kid from Northwestern is. I haven't seen a ton of him, so I don't want to drag him too much. It just seems a little high. I didn't think he was a complete game wrecker against the Nebraska offensive line. That kind of sucks. So seems high for me. No, it's not high. The Eagles getting Joey Porter Jr. Joey Porter Jr. Talk about trades. Extremely long. He already has 10 pass breakups on the year. The one thing you want to see a little bit more is the ball skills, like something like Derek Stingley had when he had 6 interceptions his true freshman year. When the ball is in the air, Derek Stingley can make a play and get a turnover. Joey Porter Jr. has not really shown that. He's dropped a few interceptions. I'm not worried about that. This dude is absolute lockdown. Very, very good feet for his length. He has extremely long arms. He uses them extremely well. Joey Porter Jr. is our first-round cornerback in this class, and I'm completely okay with it. I'm saying if you want to see him kind of move into the top 15, go be a little bit more of an impact player. Make a play from you onto the football. That's, I guess, kind of what I'm getting at, but he's really good. The Bills go get, my Buffalo Bills would not do this. Keandre Coburn, simply, we're not getting a run stuffer at pick 31. I get you want to build the trenches, but this guy really doesn't get after the passer that well. 16 pressures through 5 games. Oh, that's kind of hard to believe. I've seen a decent amount of him. He's more of kind of a guy you play in first and second down, stop the run. 6'2", 343 pounds. You just can't use a first-round draft pick on a guy with that limited pass rush ability. And the Bills obviously have a very complete roster, so you're kind of looking for just role kind of guys. I just think you can get more of an impact player than Keandre Coburn at 31. Last pick. Oh, no, that's right. The Bills win the Super Bowl. The Miami Dolphins forfeited their pick. So that'll do it. Talking a little bit of prospects, there's some guys that I wish that we saw going back to my big board. There's a couple guys to kind of just note that you didn't really see. Kayshon Boutte obviously falling out of the first round. I get it. You have some concerns there. Kayshon Boutte, when he plays, he really flashes, but you didn't really see him play much last year. When he did, it was awesome. And then this year, he's kind of been very pedestrian. And that might be more because Jaden Daniels just can't really throw the football. I don't know if I'm ready to drop him out of the first round, but it is worth noting that his stock is definitely taking a hit. I know a lot of people like Eli Ricks, you've barely seen him play. Some other guys that Noah Sewell from Oregon is top 32 guy on my big board. Again, I can see not taking it. Like Trent Simpson's easily the linebacker 1 just because he can do some of that stuff that you haven't really seen Noah Sewell do in terms of playing in space. That's kind of worth noting. And then most of these other guys, he's kind of followed my big board. There's a couple guys that Bijan Ojulari is a guy that is in my top 32 that I really feel strongly about. No other quarterbacks. If I were taking another quarterback, it'd probably be Tyler Van Dyke if he can kind of continue what he did against UNC. Clark Phillips is a guy that I would take a look at. Broderick Jones is a guy that's in my top 15. I really like Broderick Jones in terms of maybe being the number 1 tackle in this class. That'll about do it. I think another guy that I would watch is Anton Harrison from Oklahoma in terms of tackles. But honestly, a few names that I wouldn't have in my top 32, but this was a pretty good mock. Got a lot of prospects in. Again, we appreciate you guys checking us out. If you do like the content, consider subscribing to the channel. We appreciate you guys, and we will talk to y'all later. Peace.